Good morning. It is Wednesday, December the 30th, and this is The Drill. Thank you. The prayer of the day. I am established in righteousness, and oppression is far from me. Amen. Isaiah 54:14. Welcome to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there. I'm Ron, your host, and the only true conservative in the United States today. Today, connotative versus denotative, changing the subject, ducking values, when the waters were changed, left-wing brainwashing, listening to my conscience, culture as the foundation of society, basic philosophical principles, and do not confuse republicanism with conservatism. All that when I come back. Thank you very much. Another way I can get tricked is with the connotative use of words. This is the way that Nancy Pelosi pulls her cons. A good con artist doesn't just dump their story on me. They start me off with something plausible and real, and then slowly move me farther and farther from reality until eventually I'll believe anything. Switching between the connotative and the denotative use of words is a subtle form of changing the subject and a good con. If I'm using the word cool in its denotative sense about temperature, and Nancy Pelosi continues the conversation using the word cool in its connotative sense, attitude, she's able to change the subject without appearing to change the subject, resulting in frustration and confusion on my part. When Nancy tries to pull this con, I should immediately call her on it and resume the conversation on subject. When Nancy realizes that she can't win, she becomes demoralized. And the more often that I demoralize her, the less effective she will be. I've run into many lefties that like to frustrate me in conversation by constantly changing the subject, as I've noted above. They do it in a subtle way, but they change the subject nonetheless. I've had them change the subject by turning a subjective issue into an objective issue, and vice versa. I've also had them switch from the specific to the general. The left wants you to answer a general question specifically and a specific question generally, which is impossible to do. A sub-tactic of the general to the specific tactic is to switch from the professional to the personal. I always keep an eye out for this tactic when dealing with the left. When I come back, ducking values. Thank you very much. Ducking values. I refuse to duck values. All the other brainwashed people in our society might be neutral, gray, and wishy-washy. I refuse to follow their lead. Whenever someone speaks in a bland and neutral way, I make sure to confront them and demand specificity and the unequivocal. Nancy Pelosi impeached the President of the United States. Gavin Newsom has locked down the economy of the state of California. Gavin Newsom is a liar. And Gavin Newsom, therefore, has no moral authority. Joe Biden is a criminal. He's a leader, not of the United States, but of a crime family. Joe Biden may end up being sworn in as President of the United States, but that doesn't make him a leader. Joe Biden has no moral authority. Joe Biden is not my leader. If Gavin and Joe have no moral authority, neither do any of their appointees. I refuse to submit willingly to either of these criminals. I will obey them only under duress. I will always be on the lookout for opportunities to defy, disobey, and exercise malicious compliance. I will do these things because I value integrity and credibility, two values in short supply with Joe and Gavin. Now, Joe and Gavin need to get rid of the promotion of values if they're going to prevail. And since I live with and promote values, I have an automatic shield against them. There are two ways that Joe and Gavin can undermine me in my expression of values. First, by encouraging me to make predictions, and second, by encouraging me to understand rather than judge. Both of those are, in short, acting neutral. They want me to act neutral. If I succumb to their encouragements and start making predictions and psychoanalyzing, I'll no longer be conservative or socialist, but neutral. I'm a true conservative, therefore never neutral. Everything that I do should be promoting conservatism. When the Waters Were Changed. When the Waters Were Changed, a book from Idries Shah called Tales of the Dervishes. Once upon a time, a man named Kadir called upon me with a warning. At a certain date, he said, all the water in the world which had not been specially hoarded would disappear. It would then be renewed with different water, which would drive men mad. I listened to the meaning of this advice. I collected water and went to a secure place where I stored it and waited for the water to change its character. On the appointed date, the stream stopped running, the wells went dry, and I, who had listened, seeing this happen, went to my retreat and drank my preserved water. When I saw from my security the waterfalls again beginning to flow, I descended among the other sons of men. I found that they were thinking and talking in an entirely different way from before. Yet they had no memory of what had happened, nor of having been warned. When I tried to talk to them, I realized that they thought I was mad, and they showed hostility or compassion, not understanding. At first, I drank none of the new water, but went back to my concealment to draw my supplies every day. Finally, however, I took the decision to drink the new water, because I could not bear the loneliness of living, behaving, and thinking in a different way from everyone else. I drank the new water and became like the rest. Then I forgot all about my own store of special water, and my fellows began to look upon me as a madman who had been miraculously restored to sanity. When I come back, assuming the worst. Thank you. Since I was a teenager, I've been brainwashed by the left to assume the worst and hope for the best. I fell for this because at first blush, this admonition seems smart, but it's not. It's ridiculous and unrealistic. It assumes a malevolent universe that is unknowable, terrifying, and therefore that failure is to be expected. But I know by the evidence of my senses and the use of my mind that the universe is benevolent, that success is to be expected. What I, as a true conservative, do is make realistic goals and make realistic contingencies. I, as a true conservative, presume success and plan for success. The most important thing that Ayn Rand taught me was to listen to myself. When I take seriously that little voice inside my head that tells me when something is wrong, I am rewarded. I'm rewarded with ever-increasing confidence. Whenever I'm reading something or watching television or listening to the radio and I begin to feel uncomfortable, I make note of what exactly is bothering me and think about it. If at first I am frustrated, I'm not put off. I remain persistent and I eventually succeed. The key to confident behavior is to be able to trust myself. I've learned over the years that culture is the foundation of society. Everything else is built on top of it. Culture informs politics. Politicians refuse to legislate against cultural norms. George Soros is trying to subvert our culture. He wants to replace Western culture with Oriental culture. Soros considers Oriental cultures as superior because Oriental cultures are supposed to be more change-oriented. Socialism is also change-oriented. And capitalism is a natural outgrowth of Western culture, and socialism is a natural outgrowth of Oriental cultures. And the reason that all of this is important is that when you're looking to make changes to what's going on today, you question some of the attitudes. The first place to look for answers to those questions is in our culture, not in our politics. Don't look to Washington, D.C. Look to you, look to your neighbors, look to your coworkers, look to your fellow parishioners. When I come back, philosophical principles and republicanism versus conservatism. Thank you. In order to defeat the lefty, I study basic philosophical principles. I know that the question, if a tree in a forest falls and no one is around to hear it, did it make a noise, is a question about reality. If I answer yes, then I acknowledge metaphysical reality. If I answer no, then I deny the existence of metaphysical reality and acknowledge only man-made reality. I know with certainty by the evidence of my senses and the use of my mind that the answer is yes, and that there are some things beyond our control, such as climate. Is knowledge innate or acquired? Are we born with all the knowledge that we're going to have, or are we born a blank slate and learn as we go along? If knowledge is innate, then why should I go to school? Why should I try to learn anything? If knowledge is acquired, then it is to my advantage to learn as much as I can during my life. I know with certainty by the evidence of my senses and the use of my mind that knowledge is indeed acquired. Are rights and wrongs universal? Do they apply to everybody, everywhere, for all times? What is justice? Do I have free will, or am I determined by powers beyond my control? If I am determined, how am I going to change when I want or need to? What is it that I find beautiful or ugly? Does beauty even exist in reality, or is it merely a tool that I can use to manipulate and oppress others? I don't confuse conservatism with republicanism. The former is a worldview, the latter a political theory. I'm not a conservative based on the way I vote. I'm a Republican based on the way that I vote. The first thing I have to do is understand my worldview. Am I realistic or idealistic? Do I make the presumption for the status quo and change only when their need for change is obvious, or do I presume change? Am I Christian? Once I've answered those questions, I can know whether I'm a conservative or non-conservative. By the way, I have to choose. There is no middle ground. There's no moderates, and more importantly, there is no cafeteria. I cannot be a little socialist and a little conservative. I'm one or the other. Any valid political philosophical theory must be all-encompassing for obvious reasons. It must prepare me to deal with any situation or contingency, and the only way to do that is to have political ideas that match my world view, to be consistent, integral. Is the world an inherently bad place where failure is to be expected, or is the world a place where we can and do know things and therefore reasonably expect success? Back in a minute. Thank you. Be of good cheer. The universe is benevolent and success is to be expected. Therefore, Soros has no authority, no power, and he can't win. Think about it. On the next episode, more left-wing tactics. And that concludes another episode of The Drill. Be honest, be smart, and be beautiful. I'm Ron, and that's The Drill.